Kelly Clarkson has always kept her pain private, smiling through heartbreak, singing through chaos, and carrying the weight of her divorce with a grace the world admired but never truly understood. But now, for the first time, she's revealing the truth about Brandon Blackstock, and it's far more painful than anyone imagined. Her words aren't angry, they aren't dramatic. They are the honest confession of a woman who finally stopped protecting someone who never protected her. And what Kelly reveals now isn't just shocking, it's heartbreaking. When Kelly Clarkson first fell in love with Brandon Blackstock, she believed she had finally found the sense of safety she had spent her entire life chasing. Growing up surrounded by broken promises and unstable relationships, Kelly learned to question love long before she ever experienced it. So when Brandon came into her life offering comfort, commitment, and a shared vision for the future, she let herself trust him in a way she rarely trusted anyone. For a time, her world felt grounded, like she had built a home on solid earth instead of shifting sand. But the truth behind that home was far more fragile than she realized. Behind the public smiles and polished interviews, Kelly was pouring herself into a marriage that demanded more from her than it ever returned. She toured relentlessly, hosted shows, released albums, and carried an enormous workload, all while believing Brandon was building a stable foundation behind the scenes. What she didn't know was that cracks had already begun forming. Cracks she would only discover years later. Arguments became more frequent, and Brandon's support became inconsistent. Kelly found herself apologizing to keep the peace, adjusting to his moods, and quietly blaming herself for a distance she couldn't understand. Then came the financial tension, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. As both her manager and her husband, Brandon, controlled much of her professional life. Decisions were made without full explanation. Money moved without clarity. And the further Kelly looked, the more she realized she wasn't being protected. She was being handled. The emotional weight grew heavier, but she kept pushing forward, telling herself she needed to work harder, be more patient, hold the marriage together. But deep down, a quiet truth had already taken root. She was fighting alone. By the time everything collapsed, Kelly was left emotionally depleted, carrying the grief of a woman who had given everything and still lost more than she'd ever expected. Filing for divorce wasn't just an ending, it was an awakening. She finally saw how much of herself she had sacrificed trying to save a relationship that was never built to survive. And the truth she reveals next is the part that hurts the most. After the divorce paperwork was filed, Kelly finally had the space and the strength to look closely at the life she had been living. What she found wasn't just painful, it was eye-opening. For years, she had believed Brandon was guiding her career with her best interests at heart. She trusted him with her schedule, her finances, her decisions, her future. But once the legal process began, she started uncovering details that made her question everything she thought she knew about him. Contracts she hadn't fully seen. Expenses she didn't remember approving. Patterns of control disguised as management. It wasn't just miscommunication. It felt like deception. And as the truth surfaced, something inside Kelly shifted. She wasn't just dealing with a marriage that had emotionally collapsed. She was realizing she had been professionally entangled in ways she never understood. It was the kind of betrayal that shakes you at your foundation. She had built a life with someone she believed was protecting her, only to discover she had spent years being quietly taken advantage of. It wasn't just a broken heart, it was a broken trust. The legal battles intensified, and suddenly the world saw a different side of Brandon. one Kelly had lived with privately for years. He demanded support, challenged agreements, pushed for more, even after the divorce. Every step forward Kelly tried to take was met with resistance, as if he couldn't let go of the control he once had. And through it all, Kelly remained composed, choosing silence over retaliation, dignity over drama. But behind closed doors, she was devastated. Not because the marriage ended, but because she realized how long she had carried a weight that was never hers to bear. What hurt her most wasn't the money, or the court rulings, or the endless negotiations. It was understanding that the man she had defended, trusted, and believed in had held back truths she needed from the beginning. She had spent years blaming herself, wondering what she could do better, how she could fix things, never realizing she was trying to save something that wasn't built on honesty. And when Kelly finally spoke publicly about the experience, her words were calm, but heartbreaking. She admitted she had ignored her instincts for too long. She admitted she had stayed hopeful even when the signs were clear. And she admitted that the truth she now sees, the truth she finally shared with the world, was something she wishes she had faced sooner. When Kelly Clarkson finally let the truth spill out, she didn't do it with anger or bitterness. She spoke with the tired honesty of a woman who had spent years holding everything inside. In a quiet moment on her show, she admitted something that left fans heartbroken. She had stayed in the marriage long after she knew it was hurting her. She kept hoping things would change, kept believing love could fix what honesty couldn't, kept trying to carry the weight for both of them. But the moment that shattered her came during the court proceedings, when she discovered just how deeply she had been misled. Brandon wasn't just her partner, he was her manager, the person responsible for protecting her career. Learning he had secretly taken more than she agreed to, charged more than she approved, and benefited financially in ways she never fully understood, broke something inside her. It wasn't just betrayal, it was exploitation wrapped in affection. Kelly said the hardest part wasn't losing the marriage. It was realizing she had given every last piece of herself to someone who never valued the sacrifice. She lost trust, confidence, and years of emotional energy trying to make the relationship work. And for the first time, she admitted that she felt foolish for ignoring her instincts, for silencing her own voice, for choosing hope over truth, until it nearly destroyed her. Her confession wasn't dramatic. It was gentle, aching, raw. She said she finally understood the marriage had been over long before the divorce, and the only person she needed to save was herself. After everything came to light, Kelly did something she hadn't done in years. She breathed. Not the rushed, shallow breath of someone trying to survive a collapsing marriage, but the deep, freeing breath of a woman finally stepping out of the shadows. She admitted that leaving Brandon wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of finally choosing herself. She found strength in rebuilding her life alone, raising her children with honesty instead of pretending everything was fine. She embraced therapy, self-reflection, and the painful work of healing. And when she looked back at the years she spent trying to be enough, she realized something heartbreaking. She had always been enough. He just never saw it. Kelly's truth wasn't meant to attack Brandon. It was meant to release herself. And in sharing it, she reminded the world that even the strongest hearts can break. But they can also rise again. Kelly Clarkson's revelation wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her voice after years of silence. Her honesty broke hearts because it came from a place of survival, not anger. If her story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful truths and untold journeys.